Hey everybody, welcome to Gunny Sharp Talk. Ignore my mess here. I've been doing a little sharpening, testing out Hapstone. That video will come later. And some new products and things like that. Anyways, I did mention that I was going to try to do a short tech tip video on getting a mirror. And part of the reason I'm doing this video is because I hear so many people talk about how long it takes them to get a mirror polish. Oh, it took me 6 hours. It took me 8 hours. It took me 4 hours. It shouldn't take you that long. And part of the reason for that is less is more. And a lot of people, turn this so you can see I'm not really going to sharpen this. It's already sharp. I did put Sharpie on it just so me setting the stone on there, I knew I wasn't going at some weird angle and causing scratches. But what I mean by less is more, if you think about it, think about when you do a mirror and all the places that you really concentrate on. Like you really concentrate on the heel. You really end up concentrating on the tip. And where do you have the most trouble removing scratches? Usually the heel or the tip. Right through the belly, you just kind of sweep through as you're doing other things, but you don't concentrate on it as much. Maybe when you get your burr, you do in the beginning, you should be concentrating on getting an even bevel width from heel to tip with that first stone. Second stone, you should be really concentrating on removing a lot of that burr and all the scratches, getting a really even scratch pattern, making sure light reflects. You want a bright overhead light. I don't usually use this light. I usually am in the basement. I was just checking out the Hapstone up here. But I keep a bright overhead light shining down on my bevel so I can see the scratch pattern. And if you have as you have a scratch pattern, even if it's all going in the same direction, if you have a brighter reflection off of any one of those scratches, that scratch is deeper. So you don't have an even scratch pattern. You don't have an even depth. You need to make sure that's even. But stop concentrating quite as much as you go through the stones on the heel and tip. You're causing scratches sometimes. And sometimes what's taking you so long is you're causing scratches because you see a lot of the stones, they have the sharp edge. I like to leave the edge because Spyderco makes it really easy to get deep in the plunge there. But with that sharp edge, it also will cause scratches. If you are going this way and you put pressure on this leading edge, you're likely to cause a scratch somewhere. If you put pressure on the trailing edge, it actually helps to remove the scratches. If you're going this way, opposite, leading edge, you'll add scratches if you put too much pressure. If you think about it, you end up putting pressure here and pressure here, and as you sweep through, a lot of times you have a more even, lighter pressure going through that belly. And what do you end up with? You end up with less scratches there, easier to get out with stropping. It's because less is more. Less pressure, less passes. When I do a mirror, after that second stone, I may take quite a bit of time, and I do on the first one because I want to make sure I got all the scratches even from that second stone. I get all the scratches even from the first stone, and as you get towards the end of using a stone, you want lighter and lighter pressure. So your scratch depth is less. You're taking off some of the surface ridge of the scratches. And you need to understand what a scratch is. So when you get that scratch pattern, think of it as like a plow in the dirt. The diamonds or abrasive, whatever you're using, CBN, is like a plow in the dirt. And when you plow in the dirt, you get this ridge. So what you get that really reflects light a lot of times is a tiny burr on each side of a scratch. You have a scratch depth and then you have this little burr that folds over. Getting rid of that burr and smoothing it out causes light to reflect less. Some people think that you're filling the burr in, but you're not, you're abrading it away. But you have all these little, basically burrs, microscopic burrs along the way. And some steels don't fold out quite as much, but they still have almost a sharp edge along the scratch. So you want to smooth that out. And as you get lighter pressure with the same stone, you're basically taking off a little bit of that surface, so your scratch depth ends up less. So it's easier to take those scratches out with your next stone. But remember, as you're going in, if you put pressure this way, then, you know, on this leading edge, you're gonna dig in every once in a while. You'll get like a stray scratch. I'm sure you've noticed that. Like, you're going along, you're getting these scratches out, and then boom, all of a sudden you pop one up. And some people, and sometimes they're right, but some people think it's because there's a larger abrasive or something that you hit. And with some stones, that is the case. But a lot of times it's that front edge of the stone, and it's hard, and you have abrasive there, and you just dug into your steel. Where digging in from the back edge tends to erase the scratches a little bit. I prefer more even pressure through. I will change that and do a little pressure on the back edge if I have light reflecting. I have a good scratch pattern, but I have light reflecting off of one scratch brighter than the rest. Then I will go the opposite way and put a little pressure on the back edge to remove that scratch. But remember, less is more. You don't do as many passes along the belly, and you don't use as much pressure usually. And that's where it's, when you're all said and done, when you have those scratches that you can see in certain light, if you notice, a lot of times it's not in the belly area unless you've been using the knife. It's towards the heel or towards the tip, and you don't know why, because you worked on those so much. That's part of the problem. You worked on it so much, you're putting so much pressure on it. It's okay to sometimes work a little extra on it to even it out. But most of that evening out work should be done on your first stone. Not once you're at 1,000 grit or 5,000 grit. That's not the time to even it out. Even everything out on that first stone. So you'll alternate pressure from a little bit heavier to a little lighter a lot of times on that first stone. Don't go too heavy on the first stone. I would rather go a little heavier on the second stone than the first stone, and just get the bevel and everything even with the first stone, because that first stone is going to put in the deepest scratches. So if my next stone's like a 150, my 240 or 300 or whatever I'm using will take out those 150 scratches. It's hard to take out the scratches from an 80 grit or a 50 grit with a 240 or 300. So you want to take them out with that 150. So if you're going to put pressure, like with the KME, a lot of guys put too much pressure with that beast. You don't need that much pressure. It will grind away, and it hogs off a lot of steel. But they keep trying to get a burr with it. Don't worry about your burr with your second stone when you're going that low of grit. And you can put a little more pressure with your second stone to get out those deep scratches from, like I said, an 80 or 50 grit. Take your 150, put a little more pressure on that stone. And then towards the end of that stone, lighten up the pressure. So when you get to your next stone, it's easier to take out the scratches. But again, less is more. So like I said, less pressure and less passes. You don't do as many passes through the belly. A lot of times people will work here and they'll work here, and their passes through the belly is just, they're doing a few strokes to make sure they keep the bevel even. Well, you put just as, with your first stone, you put just as deep as scratches all the way across. Why are you getting them out easily across the belly? Because you're not putting a lot of pressure. When you do get a scratch across the belly, a lot of times it's from putting pressure on this front edge and causing a scratch that wasn't there. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. I didn't want this to be a real long video, just kind of wanted to mention that because I've gotten a lot of questions lately, and people talking about how long it's taken them to put mirrors on, and wanted to mention some of those common mistakes that are made. Those aren't the only reasons, but this is just kind of a tech tip, common mistakes to watch for. Anyways, like I said, if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I'm always supposed to say like and subscribe. I don't really promote the channel a whole lot. I just put this out here to help people. I'm not trying to monetize it, so you can watch the videos all you want. You don't have to like or subscribe anything if you don't want to. But have a good day. Thanks.